Tax the rich, feed the poor, till there are no rich no more. I love to change the world, but I don't know what to do. So I leave it up to you. Population keeps on bleeding, nation bleeding, still more bleeding economy. Life is funny, skies are sunny, bees make honey, who needs money? Monopoly.
Merry Christmas and welcome again, everyone, to Mike Montagne on Mathematically Perfected Economy and Absolute Consensual Representation. I am Mike Montagne, 1968 to 79 architect of Mathematically Perfected Economy, founder of People for Mathematically Perfected Economy, and principal author of the present worldwide mandate for Mathematically Perfected Economy and Absolute Consensual Representation. This program pertains to my original 1968 thesis comprising mathematic proofs that any purported economy subject to interest inevitably terminates itself under fatal artificial sums of insoluble debt, and that there is one and one only integral solution for the categoric faults of the pretended economies which have been imposed upon the world. A singular solution which, for over 35 years, we have called mathematically perfected economy. Over more than 40 years of advocating a fact of inevitable failure and singular solution, every United States president since and including Gerald Ford has been presented a proposition of mathematically perfected economy. In 1983 and 4, I provided the Reagan administration with computer models which remain capable of calculating the maximum possible lifespan of any pretended economy, subject to the obfuscations of what today we merely and ambiguously call a central banking system. These original models, complete with source code, remain available from dissented work at People for Mathematically Perfected Economy, perfectedeconomy.org, and of course, we can run the same data in these models today to replicate their vital projections. In 1983 and 4, then, these original models projected according to this solved thesis of inevitable terminal failure that the present monetary collapse would transpire at approximately 2010 AD. As a consequence of an obfuscation of our currency, which can only multiply artificial indebtedness in proportion to remaining capacity to service debt. As an inevitably terminal sum of artificial indebtedness, therefore, inevitably manifests in the present failure, it is most of all the present obfuscation of our currency, a purposed changing of the nature of our promissory obligations, together with an implicit obligation to maintain a vital circulation, which in turn inherently and irreversibly multiplies artificial, falsified indebtedness into terminal indebtedness, which we must understand if we are to make ourselves so capable of responsible self-rule that we, the united people of the world, can ensure abatement not only of a wholly unnecessary artificial monetary failure, but also an abatement of all the monetary and political injustices which are otherwise inseparable from the events which impose this exploitation upon us. By clearly understanding these ever-related issues, we then can avert failure by uniting over a fact of singular solution. The vastly plagiarized work which we discuss here therefore explained over 40 years ago not only how the present failure would transpire, but exactly how to solve and to avert both the present monetary and political injustices. Some 15 years later, in 1984, the models I provided the Reagan administration, which proved this thesis of inevitable failure by no more than borrowing back into circulation the principal and interest we pay out of circulation in servicing obfuscated, falsified debts to a purported banking system, together with exhaustive documentation of this original thesis, comprised the first online monetary reform presence, some 10 years before the official 1993-4 inception of today's Internet. Even in its original forms, then, this work disproved every recent pretended contending proposition of solution over 40 years ago. For from its very inception, mathematically perfected economy was a proof of singular solution. That is, from its inception, mathematically perfected economy was a proof that nothing else solves the categoric faults of pretended economy, and that nothing else solves the fundamental causes of the present artificial failure. These programs apprise the people of the various countries of the world how to transform the systems of exploitation which have been imposed upon us into mathematically perfected economy. Programs are best negotiated in order as previous material develops a vital background for what follows. Links to archives of this and previous programs are available at tnsradio.com under the category Mike Montagne and through the domain perfectedeconomy.org. Respondents can sign national instances of our worldwide mandate for mathematically perfected economy and absolute consensual representation at perfectedeconomy.org. This program is broadcast regularly at 3 p.m. Pacific Time, 11 p.m. UTC, each Saturday, today on Christmas Day, December 25th, 2010, from TNS Radio, tnsradio.com. Tirnassar, Land of the Free. Original material copyright and trademarked by Mike Montagne. All rights reserved. This week, Jacob Schot of the Netherlands, founder of the End of the European Central Bank's web presence, Karl Jones of Canada, and I held a general discussion to put the inception and adoption of mathematically perfected economy into perspective for the general listener. Today's program features that discussion. Merry Christmas and best wishes for the new year.
I think, like I said to you, or we discussed the other day, that the importance of this is underestimated by most people. And before we can change anything, and before we can change anything else, we first have to change this, and otherwise it doesn't make any sense to start changing things.
Yeah.
I think Mike can fill in a lot about the history and the technicalities of the system that's currently exposing us now.
Oh, for sure.
You know?
But I think we've already done that in the previous shows as well. And I think, you know, we can touch on stuff briefly. But I think what this show should really be about, I think, is how important what it is that, you know, that Mike and yourself and myself in our own different ways is trying to do, how really important it is, and that people understand that. And the word I'll be using in my little bit of a monologue is people have crusades that they're on, their own little thing, and they're crusading against it. And I'm not even necessarily going to specify what it is, because there are so many out there. But these are all symptoms, and the cause is what we are trying to change. And you cannot cure, and I will use a little an analogy as well, but you can't cure the symptom without curing the cause. All right. Well, I wanted to speak to the listeners today. I appreciate the fact that, and I'm hoping that you are listening right now to this live broadcast. It's a day for family, and hopefully you're with your family. And if that is the case, I actually want you to go and get them. I want you to talk to them. I want you to bring them over and get them to listen to what we have to say in this show. And the reason that I'm doing this little monologue right now is because what we're talking about is important, so important that many of you may not even realize that. If you're listening to this as a podcast, I want you to send it out to as many of your friends and family as possible also. And the reason I want you to do this is everybody out there has their own little cause, their own little crusade. Now, I'm not going to take anything away from those causes or crusades. Each individual one of them is extremely important, especially to the person that's involved in it, or the people that's involved in it. And I'm not even going to specify any of those particular crusades, for the very simple reason that there are so many of them, and I don't want to give any one any more importance than any other, or make one crusade any less important than another. But what I am going to say is that they are, in my view, all symptoms. They're all symptoms of a bigger, more important problem, and that's something that we, Mike's especially, has been discussing over the previous 7 or 8 programs now, and I'm sure it's been talked about by many, many other people. I have really been doing this in earnest for about the last 3 years, which is nothing compared to some of the other people involved. But what I have tried to do is talk to people who have been on these many crusades, and they listen to what I have to say, and I try and explain to them how important the message is that I am trying to convey to them, because whatever it is that they're dealing with, I tell them it's a symptom, and they will never ever fix the problem that they're fighting for without fixing the cause. I use an analogy. The analogy I've used in the past, which seems to fit quite well, is you can imagine a huge mansion, maybe even a castle. Some of these royalty castles or buildings, they've got rooms and rooms, they've got bedrooms, they've got bathrooms, they've got toilets, grand rooms, great rooms, libraries, you name it. This place is just full. And they've had a huge fire. And each one of these individual rooms is a crusade. And you just happen to be, yours is the bathroom, for instance. So you're in there, you're cleaning up, you're reconditioning, and revamping this bathroom. You want to make it the best thing that there ever has been. This bathroom's never been this good. Another guy next door, same thing with the bedroom. He wants to make this thing fabulous. So he goes about cleaning up all of the smoke damage and the fire damage. And